Gulbransen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 from the capital. Yes, the capital of the Silver and Black world, the capital of Raider Nation. That is, of course, Las Vegas, Nevada, in the Mojave Desert. It's heating up again. It is summertime. I am Scott Gulbransen, your host, joined by my co-host, Q Myers, your boy Q, as we call him. Q, how you doing this morning down in Central Texas?
Doing really, really good, man. And like you said, it's heating up. It is. It is hot, and it gets hot early, but it's all good. We're here to talk some Raiders, so couldn't be happier, man.
I know. It's and there's a lot to talk about. You know, we've been going through this whole COVID thing, and everybody's been waiting on sports to restart. I've had a great weekend watching baseball, man. It's been great. And my San Diego Padres off to a 2-0 start. The local boy, Johnny Pham from Las Vegas, 4 stolen bases in 2 games. He's on a pace to steal 120. So, with only 60 games. But it's good to see a Vegas kid on my Padres team in their new uniforms back in brown. I love it. But it's good to have sports back. And Q, we got football back. But I have to tell you, you know how they change? It's not called the disabled list anymore. It's called the injured list, right? So it doesn't matter if it's baseball or football. I am currently on the IL, buddy. I've been this whole time during this shutdown, I've kind of taken up woodworking, right? So I've been building stuff. I came from a household. My dad, God bless him, was a city rat. So he didn't know how to build anything. He never worked with a power tool in his life. So I never learned. So at my advanced age, I've been trying to teach myself this. So I went out and my wife got me an awesome miter saw for Father's Day. And I've been buying other tools, circular saws also. So I started using them and I'm building stuff. I'm building some cool stuff. You know, I built a planter with my 10-year-old son. I built a workbench, a mobile workbench from my garage. I built a stuffed animal zoo, right? The problem is, man, I didn't realize that, like, using a circular saw, what muscles that uses. so
unbelievable.
So, dude, it's like, and people ask me, oh yeah, when you get older, what's the big difference? I said the difference. I joke around. I say, look, getting out of a chair, you get injured. Well, not so much, but using a circular saw, building and finishing my workbench this past Friday, man. Yesterday I was wrecked, bro. I was just like having trouble with my back and stuff like that. So it was crazy.
So you're man down. You're basically man down. Like you're muscling through it, but you're going through it. You're struggling.
Yeah, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. But you know what? That's the only time I feel my age, right? Otherwise, mentally, right. I don't feel like I'm older than 14. But anyway, all right, listen, we have lots to talk about and lots to discuss when it comes to the Raiders, Q. And of course, what we found out this week was they were going back to training camp. We had a lot of those doom and gloomers out there. Oh, if they get back. Now, last week I said, Q, listen, it wasn't a done deal, but I had no doubt that they would come to an agreement in the NFL and that they would get in camp on time.
Exactly. And I felt pretty confident in that as well. And it's good to know that everything has worked out between the NFL and the NFLPA, and they were able to get to camp on time. But you saw earlier this week, Derek Carr showing up, and, you know, he's got to take a couple COVID tests before he can actually be in the facility. But you knew that there was a good chance that they were going to be there on time.
Not only that, but that's the thing, too. I have to say, it's like, listen, everybody's gone through a really kind of metamorphic, I think, existence through all this stuff that we've been through as a world over the last 4 months. But you got to be positive. Like, I understand, you know, we all have down times. I have my moments too, man, right? Where I'm like, yeah, I'm tired of this crap. Is this ever going to end? But with the NFL, it's always about the Benjamins. It's about the dollars. They were not going to miss the opportunity to get this seed. That's why the owner said, oh, yeah, okay, we'll resist the preseason game thing for a while. But at the end of the day, they gave on it because their eyes are on the prize. They are going to make money, and they did not want to lose the opportunity to make money when it came to this season. So they got in there. Now, we then hear, I was getting inundated, man, with DMs on Twitter, emails to the website about the fact that, hey, how come the Raiders haven't signed their rookies? Camp starts on Tuesday.
Right.
So yesterday, Q, what happens?
Man, yesterday a flurry of transactions happened when it comes to the Raiders. Every single one of their rookies gets under contract, and all I know is the emails kept coming in from the Raiders. Boom, another guy, another guy, another guy, another guy. So yeah, man, they were able to get it done all in one day. So really good job by the Raiders getting all their rookies under contract.
Not only that, but they basically signed all of them, all 7 players in 2 hours, right? To your point, Q, I was actually just hanging out with the kids, so I wasn't even thinking about work. And even though I was keeping an eye, knowing something would happen in the next few days. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, like you said, press release after press release comes in. So they sign all the guys, they get them in, ready to go. So everybody can relax now. You can tighten that clinch in your backside and relax. Henry Ruggs, of course, we had heard that deal. We reported that deal had been signed or at least negotiated and an agreement had been reached earlier in the week. 4 years, $16.67 million, almost a $10 million signing bonus. Gotta love that. Congratulations to Henry Ruggs III. Damon Arnett, he was 19th overall, 4-year deal, $13.4 million, $7.3 million signing bonus, so they're flush with cash. Somebody, a local sportscaster here in town said, "Oh, you're 24 years old and you have this much money in the bank. What are you going to do?" My answer was, "Save it, my man, save it." In addition, they signed Lynn Bowden, of course, second rounder, Tanner Muse, Brian Edwards, and John Simpson, and my man Amik Robertson as well. So everybody is in the fold, Q, and that's a good thing going into camp. And again, we've talked about the Raiders, and you've been so vocal about this on your Locked On Raiders podcast, which if you've not subscribed to, make sure you go do. And on this show where you said, look, why not now? They have everything kind of lining up for them to at least go into camp and into the quote-unquote preseason with everything ready to go, so no excuses.
No excuses at all. All the guys are under contract now, which, again, we kind of knew that it was going to happen like that. There was just no rush. There was no rush ahead of time to get those contracts done. So we kind of knew that it was going to happen, especially after Henry Ruggs signed. Then it's like, okay, the rest of them are just going to fall into place. That's exactly what they did. And I'll tell you, man, I feel like the Raiders have a lot of momentum. Yes. I think that's the biggest word right there, momentum. I think they have a lot of that heading into camp. Now, of course, you got to be lucky as well as good. You got to make sure that you avoid injury. But I just kind of feel like this team is primed to make a nice run. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to go hoist the Lombardi at the end of the season. I just feel like they are primed to make a nice run. And, a lot of fans get excited about teams during the offseason and say, oh, hey, this is the year it's going to happen. Something feels different about this Raiders team, just what they've been building the last 2 seasons when they were in Oakland still, and now their first season in Las Vegas. I just feel like something is different, and they have a lot of positive momentum moving forward.
Absolutely, and it's crazy because that's the thing. I look at this and I say everything is lining up for them perfectly. The world around them has been a mess, right, with everything that we've been through. But at the same time, the Raiders seem to get the job done. And I think if you're a Raiders fan, there's one thing that I would look at and say, and it's something Derek Carr talked about. We're going to talk about this later in the show. By the way, before I get to this point, just want to say that today's show, a couple things I want to point out. Number one is we have huge news about the future of the show. We're going to talk about that later. So if you've tuned in, if you're a fan, if you're a listener, you're a reader, we will get to that in the second hour, and we'll let you know. So yes, it's called a tease. We're going to tease you a little bit. The other thing is we are going to talk a lot about Derek Carr had an interview and actually did a donor Q&A via Zoom with folks from the Children's Hospital up in Fresno, which our longtime reader and London buddy Wendy Pierre was nice enough to give us the transcript. So we wrote a story about it and what Derek had to say. Very interesting thing. So we'll do that. Shout out to Wendy. Also, shout out to Yabani Martinez on YouTube, and we'll get to your question, Yabani. No worries, man, and thank you for your contribution. But we're going to talk about that. Q also has a great interview with Andrew Erickson of Pro Football Focus on fantasy football. Are there Raiders you should draft? So that's coming up later as well. And then we're going to talk about Hunter Renfro a little bit. Is he the key to the offensive season? I say yes, and I'll tell you why later. But Q, when you look at the way the Raiders are set up, and everything coming together nicely, you're right. There is luck involved, and we still don't know a lot of things about the NFL season. We don't know for fact, even though they've said a full schedule, we don't know if that's for sure going to happen yet. It looks like it's going to. We don't know about fans in the stands yet, which I think most people listening, that's one of their big concerns is, are they going to do it? And you've been very public about you saying that, look, these teams need at least a preseason game. And a lot of fans, I think, incorrectly think that you don't need a preseason because it's just about owners making money. And while 70% of that is true, you have players who need reps. You have young guys trying to make a team on a cut down roster already that's going to be tough to make in the first place. And so I think people will understand after this year that the preseason is a necessary evil.
It really is, and nobody likes practice. I mean, again, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about practice, but nobody likes that, and nobody likes to watch the preseason unless you're just a football junkie like myself, and so I'll watch it. But it's not about that. It's not about the entertainment. It's not about the owners making money. It's about the players getting reps. And there's a lot of guys that are in Canton, Ohio right now in the Hall of Fame that were undrafted free agents that made their squad, and maybe they only made it because of a preseason game. I mean, I keep going back to, a guy like Jalen Richard on the Raiders, who, he was a guy who got a camp invite, a 3-day weekend camp invite, and he made the most of it, and he's been on the team ever since. There's guys like Corey Littleton, who was an undrafted free agent. These guys don't make the squad. Most of these guys don't make squads without the preseason, and so there's going to be a lot of talent that probably won't be seen this year because they won't make the team. There's only 80 players going into camp. I mean, it's limited, so it's just a tough battle, man. And so as much as people don't enjoy watching the preseason, it's something that's needed for these players and for these teams to get all on the same page. We're not going to see that this year.
No, I agree 100%. And we talked about that on our live stream on Wednesday. We did a video live stream, Q and I, talking about that. And that's the thing. You're going to see guys, one of our guys that we love, UNLV kid, Javen White, who had, I think, a good shot. I'm not saying a guaranteed shot, but he had a good shot with, as you say, the dog in him, just ready to go, wanting to play, wanting to stay in Vegas, wanting to make the Raiders. And now he might not even have that opportunity because of these rules, because of the shortened offseason. And that's really too bad, because you just don't know if these guys could have been something special, could have been. And again, I'm not saying Javen White's this guy because I don't know, but could have been in Canton in 20 years, had they got the opportunity. Some of those guys may never get that opportunity, Q, and there's nothing worse than that wasted opportunity or that wasted potential.
Exactly. And Javen White is the first guy I thought about when they said no preseason games, because, again, he is that guy. He's got that dog in him. He's got that mentality. All he's got to do is go out there and show it, but now he's not going to have that opportunity. So now he's got to make the most of practice. He's really got to make the most of what they do when nobody else is looking. And, look, that's part of it. That's part of making the squad as well, doing everything right when you're practicing. But it's a lot easier to evaluate a player when they're actually in a game mode, but they won't have that opportunity this year.
Yeah, and it's and there, we have to talk about, when we come back from the break here in a minute or so, we're going to talk about big question marks heading into camp for the Raiders. What is it that we need to find out about this team? I mean, there are many things, but we're going to focus on a few. And we just talked about one, right? We just talked about some of these young undrafted guys who's gonna have the opportunity step up and maybe make this team in a shortened offseason with a cut down roster, and think about it. And then we have questions like Yubani Martinez, our great contributor on YouTube, who just asked about kick punt return specialist. Who's got the inside kind of on that job? Is it going to be Lynn Bowden Jr.? Is it going to be Henry Ruggs? Are we going to see the #1 draft pick out there returning kicks? Those types of questions are, I think, a big one. Also, at quarterback, Derek Carr is a starter. There's no doubt about that. That's all been put to rest, and I believe that 100%. But how many reps are quarterbacks going to switch off? What are we going to see out of Marcus Mariota so he gets familiar with the offense in this offseason without any games to do that? Usually you'd have your backup get in 2-3 quarters in a preseason game. Now you got a quarterback learning the system who doesn't get that opportunity, so there's a lot of things happening there. But we're going to step aside, and when we come back, that's what we're going to talk about. We'll take your questions too. You can always hit us up on YouTube. We are also on Facebook, Twitch. If you're a gamer and you like to watch us on Twitch, we are live there as well. You can ask us the questions that you want to know about, and we will get to them when we do, because you're a big part of the show. We thank you. Again, we'll have big news on the show also, second hour, so don't miss it. Make sure you listen to everything, including this message that helps us pay the bills. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with what you need to look for. What are the big questions going into training camp for the Raiders in 2020? Don't go anywhere.
Join CBS Sports Radio 1140 and Finley Automotive Group in our mission to move Las Vegas forward. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
All right, welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140, streaming all over on the radio.com app. Also, streaming live, having great conversation with our folks in YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and Twitch. And yes, we're streaming video today, but it's a static picture with the audio. We have such great fans who like to listen to us on these social channels in YouTube and Facebook and so on. And so because we're not having live video, and Q, apparently we're much more handsome than we believe because everybody wants to see us. But I'm sure it's you, it's not me. But people are like, oh man, no video, we don't get to see you guys. And I apologize for that. We're working on a new solution for video to kind of up the ante, and you'll hear about a little bit that when we give you our big news today. But nonetheless, we wanted to bring the audio so that at least what I found is, just like Raider Nation in person and in other areas of media, they like to talk to each other a lot, right? So I didn't want to not have the show available to them this week, so that because the chats and the questions we get are phenomenal. So we're going to do that, and we're going to get to Yabani Martinez's question too. Again, Yabani, thanks for your donation there on YouTube. But here's the thing, guys. We're getting ready for camp, and everybody's excited, but there are question marks. There are things that we need to consider about the Raiders and about the NFL in general, I think, heading into camp in this weird era that we've lived in, that we're going to tell our grandkids about and just be like, this was crazy. This is a crazy time. But if you look at the Raiders heading in, Q, the first thing I want to talk about, and you've talked about this on your podcast, you've talked about this on this show as well, as have I, is the condition of the players. Now, we've seen them doing workouts in Las Vegas. We see the cool Instagram things of people running up hills and doing drills and all that. It ain't the same. I mean, good for those guys. No. Good for those guys. It's awesome. I mean, it's better than sitting on your couch like I've been doing. But nonetheless, you say to yourself, okay, great, you're trying to keep yourself in shape. But game shape is a whole different thing. NFL football, to me, is the most unique sport in this way. Maybe hockey a close second. You have to be in such different shape than if you're just working out on your own, Q. And I think question mark number one really is going to be, how conditioned are these guys, and can they stay away, God forbid, from injury?
Exactly. I mean, that's what it's all about, you know, and a lot of people reference the season when there was a strike, and, you know, and there was a lot of guys that came back from that, and they had a lot of injuries just because they weren't in game shape. You know, it's one thing to be in shape, and then there's another thing to be in game shape. So that's going to be the biggest question, you know, in training camp this year. How quickly can everyone get up to speed on what they need to be doing and where they need to be as far as, you know, being So it's going to be a very simple, that's kind of the way I like to term it. It's a very simple training camp this year as opposed to what we're used to seeing. So I think it's going to be so much different. And when they actually get into the heart of the season, the first 4 or 5 weeks, I think that's when the real conditioning is going to begin. That's when they're going to start to get into game shape. That's when you'll see who's put in the most work, you know, on their own, and who's going to be there for the long haul and who's not. Good point. And to me, though, it's game shape, yes. And I know they'll have inter-squad contact drills, right? Not too much. They're not going to hurt each other. Right. But that's also where, you know, the preseason games, yes, there's a risk of injury. I mean, the starters don't play that much to begin with, but at least you get a little bit of game speed, right? Especially for the younger players coming in, even if they're playing fellow rookies or backups. Everybody's faster in the NFL. This is the first thing that you hear from players who come in from the college ranks is, man, everything is just so much faster, quicker on the field of play when you're out there. And now, Q, they don't get that chance. And I think, to me, I think that's why you will see the first couple weeks of the NFL season a lot of sloppiness, maybe even a lot of big plays because of busted plays, because of communication. That's the other thing. Preseason games are great for these guys to learn how to communicate on the field. Exactly. That's going to be major, and especially for the Raiders when you look at how many different players they have, how many new players they have on defense. That's going to be major, and that you can't duplicate that. You cannot duplicate game reps. You just can't. And so you're going to learn, and they're going to learn on the fly. And that's going to where I said last week, you're going to have to see the offense probably carry the defense for the first few weeks, probably the first 3 or 4 weeks until they actually get on the same page. But yeah, you'll probably see a bunch of busted coverages, and you'll always see the player look back at the other guy with his hands up like, wait, what happened? Oh, my bad. Okay. You know what I mean? Like they just don't know. That's what happens when you don't get those game reps.
Right. So now if we think, my second question, Q, and I'll ask you what your question is in a second, but the one I want to bring up, because I know we've talked about this too before, which is the defense. Like, so we've seen this defense become remade, right? We saw the linebacking core go from nothing to having pretty solid players. They're very good players in Corey Littleton, Nick Witkowski, and the returners there. But when you look at this defensive squad, to me the question is, you got a lot of young talent. You have we talk about the rookies. We talk about the second year, in essence, second rookie season for Jonathan Abram at safety. There's a lot of new pieces and parts, all of them upgraded, absolutely. So I have a positive view of it. But I want to know, and one of my question marks is, how is this team going to gel together on defense, and how quickly is it going to be able to transition into a defense that's going to help this team so that the offense can generate more points and be more competitive when they get into the game situations?
I mean, that's going to be the biggest question. I mean, that really is the absolute biggest question, and we don't know. We don't know until we actually get to see it. But, yeah, the defense has got to step up. I mean, the key to 2020 for the Raiders is an improved defense. You've seen them go out there and make the moves to go get Corey Littleton, go get Nick Witkowski, bring in, other guys. They went through the draft and got some guys on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they've done things to address the issues on defense. But, again, like you said, they really have to gel and see how quickly they could gel. And one of my biggest questions on that defense is, who is Jonathan Abram? You know what I mean? Just who is he? Fans love him, but fans don't love him because of what he's done on the field. Fans just love him because of Hard Knocks and that he was a funny guy and he seemed like a cool guy and he wears the number 24. But nobody knows if he's going to be good or not. I mean, he played one game and he was flying around the field. I get that, but he only played one game, and he's going to make mistakes this year. And that's the thing about it. His rookie year last year, that could have been a year where you saw him make mistakes and say, okay, well, he's a rookie learning. Now he's in his second year, and he's going to be a rookie learning all over again. So how good is Jonathan Abram? I'm not doubting him. I just want to see it.
No, and that's what I was going to say to people out there is, when you say that, because I feel the same exact way, Q. I'm not in any way being negative about Jonathan Abram. I love the guy, but we don't know what he is yet. We think we know what he is based on the preseason games and the one game when he got hurt and the potential there. But you got to do it, right? And he's coming back from an injury. I don't care what kind of injury it is. It's not a given that you come back 100%. And it's not a given that you're the same player you were before. I don't care what it is. So yes, we have to see that. So all those questions, then you ask, how is that new linebacking core going to come together? What pieces that were left over, the Nicholas Morrows of the world, what are those? Are those guys going to fit in well? Who's going to emerge? Who's going to come out of that camp, that kind of truncated camp, and make a splash enough to be there with Littleton and with Kwiatkowski? And who's going to play hybrid position? Is Tanner Muse? Tanner Muse, right. They've said, hey, Tanner Muse is going to be a special teams guy the first year maybe. But maybe not. Maybe he makes a splash and suddenly makes me look bad from my draft day prediction on I didn't think he was going to be that great. So he comes out and he does something. So you have that situation. Then, Q, you have, I think, to your point about the defense being so important this year, on offense, you now have John Gruden, who some, not all, some call an offensive genius, okay? He now has all of the tools. He has a full tool belt, correct? He's got wide receivers. He's got the running backs. He's got the quarterbacks. And I say plural quarterbacks in case anything happens to one or the other. Okay. He's got the tight ends. He's got the offensive line that has gotten massive PR over the offseason, how good they are. Okay. Now, you have all those tools, Q, but how are you going to use them, and how successful can you use them?
Exactly, and that's what John Gruden's got to figure out. And when they drafted Henry Ruggs III, that told me that, okay, he's got something up his sleeve. He's got something. He's ready to open up this offense because, again, I thought that they would go and get a CeeDee Lamb or go get Jerry Jeudy because he fit Gruden's offense of what we've seen the last 2 years better. But now you bring in Henry Ruggs, and you know that he has that incredible speed. So that told me right then and there, okay, they're going to open things up, and he's going to, he's got some plays that he didn't get to run for Antonio Brown that he's expecting to run for Henry Ruggs. And so I'm excited by that, but now we just have to see it. And like you said, he's got all the weapons as far as the wide receivers go. He's got the offensive line. He's got a running back that could carry the load. I mean, it's all there for him. You just got to go make it happen. And so Derek Carr, he's in the third year under John Gruden, should be a lot better than he's been. And last year wasn't bad statistically. It just didn't come up big when you needed him to come up big the most. So this should be a big year for everybody involved.
Red zone and second half scoring were atrocious. So they got to fix that, and we've talked about that till we're blue in the face. But Q, before we have about a minute and a half left before we go to break, and I want to make sure we get to our contributor, Yubani Martinez's question, and we'll start with you on this, Q. Kicker, punt returner specialist. We have Lynn Bowden drafted. Henry Ruggs is there. Of course, we have some leftover guys, Zay Jones. You have some other guys who are fast, who can return kicks. Who do you think wins out there, and why?
That's a really good question. I'm thinking, and everyone thinks that I hate this guy as far as a wide receiver, and I don't. But maybe that's where Nelson Aguilar makes his spot. Maybe that's how he actually makes the team, because as far as a wide receiver goes, I'm not a big fan of Nelson Aguilar. I just don't think he's very good as a wide receiver, but I know he has the kick return ability. He has the punt return ability. I don't like to see Jalen Richard back there. He gets a little loose with the ball too much for me. But yeah, that's a good question, because that's something that the Raiders will struggle with, man, and that's just field position. They've got to find a guy that can put him in good position for kickoffs or punts.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. I think you will see Lynn Bowden there as well. We'll see how he does in camp and what he's able to do, and if he gives the coaching staff there some promise there. But I think that's an opportunity for him to be there and to do something as well to contribute to the team. All right, we're going to come up on a break here, bottom of the hour. I want to also thank Sun Joku for your donation on YouTube. Thanks, man. We appreciate your support as always. When we come back, your boy Q will talk to Andrew Erickson of Pro Football Focus. Are there Raiders worth a draft pick when it comes to fantasy football? They'll talk about that next. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Mookie and Max.
You're clear.
Cody and Clayton. The Dodgers. most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbransen.
Welcome back. Are there Raiders worthy of your fantasy football pick? Do you want to stock your team with some Silver and Black players? Here's Q talking with Andrew Erickson from Pro Football Focus on that fact and a little more on fantasy football.
Joining me now on the phone lines is Andrew Erickson from Pro Football Focus, on Twitter at @AndrewErickson_. And he's talking about something I don't talk about too often, and that's fantasy football. He's PFF's fantasy football analyst. And Andrew, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And like I said at the beginning, I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm not a fantasy football guy, but I do know many fans out there are, so I'm very interested in this interview. Just forgive me if I don't understand all the terminology that might go into it, but as far as fantasy football goes and the Raiders go, they have a lot of players returning offensively, led by Derek Carr in 2020. So let's just start there. What's a fair fantasy football outlook when you talk about Derek Carr in his third year under John Gruden?
Yeah, I think when it comes to Derek Carr, it's really looking like he's kind of had his floor already, and it kind of looks like it really can only go from here. You know, they added a lot of weapons during the draft, you know, adding in a guy like Henry Ruggs, adding in a guy like Brian Edwards, adding a guy like Lynn Bowden. So they really kind of are diversifying this offense a little bit more. And again, you know, this team was supposed to have Antonio Brown last year. And then obviously, you know, things transpired and that just kind of fell through. And then they kind of had to scramble and rely on Darren Waller kind of, you know, stepping up to be that number one option for Derek Carr. So, you know, it wasn't a great fantasy year for Derek Carr last year, but, you know, Carr still was really good in terms of being an accurate quarterback. You know, he's not a lot of things. He doesn't necessarily make a lot of plays downfield, but his accuracy last year was second best among quarterbacks. So the way I look at Carr is he's a guy that you're probably not going to end up drafting in a lot of leagues, but if he is someone that has a good matchup on a specific week, you know, he can get the ball to his playmakers. He's shown us that enough, whether it's, you know, dub offs to Josh Jacobs or, you know, slants to Henry Ruggs. Obviously, he has chemistry with Darren Waller. So, and you also had Jason Witten in the mix. So, I mean, you could argue Derek Carr is kind of like looking back and kind of seeing a weapon similar to what he used to have when he had Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree. So we've seen Derek Carr put up better numbers with better weapons around him. So I think that it's really, you know, it's kind of everything's looking up for Carr as a fantasy option in 2020.
You know, a lot of fans are excited about the addition of Henry Ruggs. You mentioned him a couple times. He was the first-round pick. Just what kind of projections do you have for him? How big of a fantasy football season do you think he can have, especially with there being no real offseason? You know, I know they're going into training camp pretty soon, but, I mean, this is a rookie stepping into the NFL. So how much does that kind of weigh into what Henry Ruggs could do in his rookie year?
Yeah, and the first thing I want to talk about with Ruggs is, again, the guy's got blazing speed. We all saw it, you know, his 40-yard dash time was just unreal. But the thing that, you know, people will kind of, you know, go to when they see that is, oh, like, he's a big deep threat guy. Like, he's going to catch a lot of deep passes. But it's like, no, like, that's not really his role. That's not what he really did at Alabama. Yes, he can go deep, and he is fast. But like I mentioned, like, he's a guy that we're going to see more of. I'm going to take, like, these bubble screens to the house. I'm going to take this slant route to the house. And that really fits more with Derek Carr, who's an accurate quarterback. So I really think Ruggs, you're looking at the landscape of these rookie wide receivers, yeah, it's going to definitely be an uphill battle for a lot of these rookie wide receivers. But you look at Ruggs' situation, and again, you know, we're going to see this offense manufactured touches to Henry Ruggs. There are going to be specific plays made out for Ruggs like they were going to do with Antonio Brown. So I do think that Ruggs has a little bit more upside than a lot of other rookie wide receivers. I think he's going to be playing a lot. And yes, you know, it may take some time. You may not start out of the gate, you know, on fire. But I think that ultimately down the stretch, if you've got to take Ruggs in your draft with one of your late picks, you know, be patient with him. Because I think that ultimately he will be able to deliver later on down the line.
How big of a fantasy factor was running back Josh Jacobs in 2019, and how much bigger of a role can he have in 2020 with so many more weapons now on the outside, like you mentioned already?
Yeah, so Josh Jacobs was one of the better running backs last year. He's basically finishing as one of the top options at the position, and that was really more or less just based on his rushing production. So he was excellent, you know, breaking tackles and making plays after the catch. But that's the thing, you know, in year one, he was, you know, strictly used as a running back rusher, you know, wasn't really featured in the passing game. And that's really the question mark that a lot of people in the fantasy community kind of have right now with him is like, is he going to take that next step? Are they going to use him more in the passing game? And obviously, Mayock and Gruden have come out and said, previously that they would like to see him more featured in the passing game. But, when they go out and draft a bunch of, receivers and running backs, sometimes it's hard for you to, fully buy into that. But the way I look at it is, his rookie year as a runner was pretty special. He did a lot of great things, and it just doesn't make sense to me, at least, to think that, let's take touches away from our first-round running back who was excellent in his rookie year. It doesn't make sense to me. So, I'm really high on Josh Jacobs entering his second season, and I do think that he is going to be more involved in the passing game. Obviously the team re-signed Jalen Richard, but again, he's just a guy. He's a guy that has checkdowns and things like that. I don't think he's really much of a difference maker, and I'm not going to let a guy like Jalen Richard or a guy like Lynn Bowden, who's a rookie, again, totally unproven commodity, stop me from buying into Josh Jacobs after what he showed last year. So, Josh Jacobs is a first-round pick. I'm all aboard that in fantasy football.
Talking all things fantasy football right now with Andrew Erickson from Pro Football Focus. You can find him on Twitter at @AndrewErickson_. And look, the Raiders are really good in 2019 between the 20s. They stacked up a lot of yards, and I'm sure you saw that with Pro Football Focus. But in the red zone, they really, really struggled. Is there a particular guy that you may see that was either added to the roster or a guy that's currently on the roster that you think, okay, he'll have a better 2020 that can help in them being successful, more successful in the red zone, which obviously means more fantasy football points.
Yeah,
And look, the Raiders are really good in 20.
He's definitely a bigger target, the rookie that they drafted in the third round. So he definitely has the potential to fill a role there in the red zone. And I think, again, they utilize Jacobs a little bit more in the red zone. I think that he could be a factor. And they arguably have one of the better, tight end units in the NFL. Mentioned Darren Waller. He's a really big target for Derek Carr. They have Foster Moreau, who also caught, a boatload of touchdowns last year. Surprisingly, it seemed like half of his catches went for touchdowns. And they added in the veteran Jason Witten, who, he's getting up there in age, came out of retirement. But, he had a pretty productive season last year with the Cowboys. So even if he's just a red zone specialist, he obviously knows how to find where the defense is light, in certain areas of the field. And Derek Carr could possibly favor him in the red zone. So, yeah, and I think that, too, if they're just, teams that are just so bad in certain aspects, just year over year will normally just regress to just being average. It's just kind of what we see in the trends when we're looking at all the data. So I would expect with those additions and also just the expansion of Josh Jacobs that the Raiders would have more success in the red zone in 2020.
What are your thoughts on Hunter Renfro as far as a fantasy football guy goes?
Yeah, so it's crazy to think because, when you first look at Renfro, you're like, man, I don't know how I feel about this guy. How good can this guy be? But, I looked more at the numbers with Hunter Renfro, and he's a legit sleeper this year. No doubt, he could be a guy that no one's going to be high on. Ruggs will probably get drafted before him just because Ruggs is going to come with much more hype. But in your draft, Renfro was one of the much better guys that I was looking at, especially looking at his split after the bye week. After the Raiders bye week, he was much more heavily involved. He got way more opportunities in the offense, and he was one of the best receivers from the slot. At Pro Football Focus, one of our best metrics for future success is yards per route run. And Hunter Renfro, from week 6 onward, ranked in the top 12 in terms of yards per route run from the slot. And he was up there in the top 5 in terms of fantasy points per touch. So he was scoring a lot of touchdowns. He was becoming Derek Carr's favorite target from week 6 onward. So I expect that trend to continue. And like I said, if Ruggs is slow out of the gate, don't be surprised if it's Hunter Renfro. It's the guy that's kind of benefiting early on. I really think that he's kind of really flying under the radar because he doesn't, bring that sexiness of a, 4.27 40-yard dash and kind of looks like a guy that should be doing something else that's not playing professional football. But I really like his prospects a lot for the upcoming season.
So, final question for the offense, at least, when it comes to the Raiders. I'm assuming Josh Jacobs would be the first Raider you expect to be drafted by most people in their fantasy football league. And if so, who would be the next guy?
So, yeah, it's definitely a gap between the players. Most of the receivers, like Ruggs and Renfro, aren't going until later rounds.
Okay.
Derek Carr is a quarterback that not many people are drafting highly, so he's down there. So the next Raider that kind of comes up here is Darren Waller. And the problem with Darren Waller that I have, at least, is last year was kind of like he came out because the team really had no one else. He was really able to emerge as that target monster because, Antonio Brown was gone and Tyrell Williams got hurt, and there wasn't really anyone else for Carr to really distribute the ball to. But now you're adding in all these weapons, and I think that's going to ultimately hurt Waller a little bit. Like right now, he's being drafted basically after the elite tight end. So you have, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and then Mark Andrews, and then you kind of have Darren Waller kind of falling in that 5 spot being drafted along guys like Evan Ingram and Hunter Henry from the Chargers. So his draft stock is definitely up because of how good he was last year, but looking at the Raiders, I'm not so sure that I'm expecting a repeat performance from Darren Waller at tight end.
Talking right now with Andrew Erickson, Pro Football Focus fantasy football analyst, and now talking about the defense. Got to talk about the defense, and I'm not really even sure how much the defense is effective in fantasy football, but just when you look at the Raiders' defense overall, how much of a liability are they if you have them on your team?
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to recommend that you draft Raiders defense. They are definitely a team that's going to probably give up a lot of points early on. But in essence, that kind of helps the offense. You want games that are more high-scoring environments. When you have a defense that, gives up a lot of yardage and points, it automatically forces the other team, the offense, to have to be more aggressive making plays downfield. So I'm not high on the Raiders defense as of right now. Can't recommend that you draft them. But they do draw an interesting matchup in the first week of the season. So they get to play. They open up against Carolina, I believe, against a whole new coaching staff, whole new quarterback. So that could be an interesting kind of prospect. But right now I have their defense ranked 30th out of 32 teams. But, Carolina is ranked 32nd. So at least there'll be 2 bad defenses playing each other week 1.
Right. I kind of expect that as well, especially week 1. But Pro Football Focus, they ranked the Raiders linebacking core. Nick Witkowski, Corey Littleton, Tanner Muse, they actually have them number 6 in the league out of 32 linebacking rooms. So how does that relate to fantasy football, just the linebacking group?
Yeah, I think that the linebacking group, effectiveness of the linebackers will definitely help in terms of the run game and specifically looking at the specific linebackers in tight end coverage. Because we find that there are certain teams every single year that are very vulnerable against the tight end. Basically, last year, the Arizona Cardinals were the tight end whipping boys, and you just started whatever team was playing the Cardinals, you just started their tight end, and they just scored fantasy points. Like, it was the easiest way to do my job, basically, was just say, whoever's playing the Cardinals tight end, just play them and you're golden. And it worked almost every single week. So I think that having good linebackers definitely helps against tight ends, emerging and having big games. But I think that the Raiders, the only reason they're ranked so low is just they have so many question marks with the secondary. The secondary was just so bad last year.
What would you say as far as you mentioned the secondary and Trayvon Mullen, he's a returner. He's a second-year guy. They went and drafted Damon Arnett. Don't know what to expect from him just because, he's done nothing in the offseason so far. But out of the secondary, out of the guys that they do have, I know that they're not going to be a high selection for you. If you had to pick one of them, who would you pick?
Yeah, I think that I would probably go after the rookie. Looking at Arnett, that's something that we tend to trend towards when you're looking at, when you play in specific fantasy leagues where you're required to start, cornerbacks or specifically defensive backs. Rookie defensive backs get targeted a lot. So because, quarterbacks are trying to test them. And that's actually good for fantasy because we want our cornerbacks to rack up tackles, rack up interception. So when you have a cornerback that's just, hey, this guy's shut down, nobody throws him the ball, no one throws the ball to him, he doesn't make any tackles because he's just covering the guy. You don't get any points that way. You actually want cornerbacks that get tested, extremely often. So Arnett as a rookie, that's going to immediately happen. And if he's as advertised, if he can play up to his draft pedigree, that he should be able to deliver on some tackles and some splash plays, with interceptions potentially that he can bring back for scores. So that's ultimately, playing into the fact that, hey, that's how you get more fantasy points from your defensive backs.
Just got a couple more questions for you, Andrew. As far as the defense goes, Max Crosby, he had 10.5 sacks his rookie year. He was a 4th-round pick. He was a guy that was a lot of surprise. The guys were really, really surprised when they saw his performance his rookie year. How would he translate in the fantasy football game? Where do you expect different players to kind of draft him or where they put him on their team at?
Yeah, so when you're looking at pass rusher specifically, so a lot of ways leagues are set up is you have D linemen that you have to roster, and you do get a lot of points per sack. So Max Crosby would definitely be someone that you would want to recommend that you would draft. Probably within the top, 20 of terms of pass rushers. Just for each team, you're going to look at their top pass rushers. So I definitely think Max Crosby has the potential to, again, kind of continue to ascend. And I think that he could be a decent option there as a pass rusher.
Final question for you. I know Pro Football Focus put out a fantasy football guide just a couple of weeks back. Where can folks get it? Why should they pick it up as they prepare for their upcoming fantasy football season?
Yeah, so the Fantasy Football Draft Guide, so it's over at PFF.com. You can get it with any type of subscription to the website. I think we still got a coupon going on with it, so you got to go check out the website and get to I think it's Fantasy 20. I think it's still the coupon, but it may be expired, so don't hold me to it. But, the Draft Guide is filled with all the goodness that you need. It has this really cool strength of schedule tool where you can basically kind of map out and see, okay, like, how is my schedule looking up with this team that I have with these specific players. Each player of all the players in the draft guide has like a blurb with them, so you can kind of get an idea of where we're looking at the certain player and kind of their outlook for the season. We have tier rankings, which makes it really easy for you to go to your draft and you just draft until the tier is empty and then you go to the next tier. Just a lot of great stuff, and we're going to be, pushing out some more updates that are going to include some team preview articles or team preview kind of write-ups in the month of August. So it's not just, hey, this is it. No, it's going to continue to grow as we get more information. So, yeah, it's your one-stop stop for everything you need fantasy football related. And it's got great data because it's all from PFF.
Right. PFF is a good go-to, no doubt about it. That's Andrew Erickson, Pro Football Focus fantasy football analyst. You can find him on Twitter at @AndrewErickson_. And thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's really been really good, man. And the guy that doesn't do fantasy football like myself, I'm still, pretty intrigued by just the conversation. So if you don't mind, man, I'd love to, have you back on throughout the season and just, catch up fantasy football-wise.
Yeah, man, I'll be back on, but it's going to come at a cost. You got to sign up for a fantasy league this year. You got to make the commitment.
Well, we'll see what we can do. I'll see what I can do, my man. I'll see what I can do. But I definitely appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me on. Absolutely,
man. Real good stuff right there from my man Andrew Erickson from Pro Football Focus. You can find him on Twitter at @AndrewErickson_. Again, Pro Football Focus, fantasy football. I'm not a big fantasy football guy, but I thought that was a really good conversation. So many thanks to Andrew. Coming up next, going to dip back into some more Raiders conversation with Scott Gulbransen, Chaz Osborne, and myself, your boy Q. It's the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports 1140.
Join CBS.
Stand by.
Hey, this is Eric Allen. You're listening to Silver and Black today.
Eric Allen. All right. I haven't heard that one in a while. I love it. It's always fun to have a Raider bring you back in, right? So you're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Got a couple minutes left this hour. And Q, man, I'll tell you what, that conversation with Andrew Erickson. Now, I've played fantasy football for a long time. I'm not real intense into it because I just don't have as much time, so I try to play but do it in a way that it works for me. And I have a league with a good friend of mine who runs it, and I've been in the same league for like 15 years, and she runs the league every year, and every year I do really well. I get in the playoffs, and I always have I always play the worst team in the league, and I lose because they have like the best week ever that they had in the entire year. And meanwhile, I was cruising all year long in the top two, and then I get beat in the first round of the playoffs, man. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't do fantasy football at all. I signed up for it one time at the radio station because, well, we said that we all had to do it, and I traded all my players. I had a bunch of Chiefs on my team that I just got, I had done the auto draft or whatever, so I traded all those guys away. It was like Jamal Charles and, like really good players at the time, and I just traded them all away for Raiders, and I didn't care who they were. I didn't want them, so I was like, nah, I can't do this fantasy football stuff.
Yeah, it's funny, fantasy football, and we'll do another segment on it too from the business perspective as we get closer to the season, because it is such a massive business. And the NFL for a long time really made it hard for these outside companies like Yahoo and all that to do it. And then the NFL got hip to how much money they could make off it. And it's been a huge, huge success for them. And people stay more active. They watch more games. They even bet on more games and all this stuff because of it. And then now you have the daily fantasy stuff, which has a betting component to it as well. So it's a huge business. And I know Andrew, young guy, but really well respected in that world. And just a great interview with them. But we'll see. The thing is, I was watching the chat on YouTube. People say, "Oh, I stunk because I got all the Raiders." It's like, listen, it's like betting. You can't draft with your heart, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's one of those deals. But listen, we got about a minute or so before we hit the top of the hour, and just a quick rundown of things we got coming up on the show. Top of the next hour. Well, first of all, next hour, we're going to share some big news with you towards the end of the show about the show and the future of the show. And no, Q isn't going anywhere, if that's one of the questions you have. But also, we're going to talk about Derek Carr, his comments, the story we ran up on silverandblacktoday.com. Check out the story. It's in the banner section at the very top. You'll see it. Thanks to our listener, Wendy Pierre, who gave us a transcript of his conversation with donors to his charity in Fresno. And he had some really interesting things to say there about continuity with the Raiders, being with the same coach for 3 years. He talked about living in Las Vegas. He talked about wanting to play the Chiefs more than anything. So Derek Carr has his sights focused on to me, the right goal, because you got to beat the Chiefs if you want to get through the playoffs and have a chance at winning the division. But interesting stuff, Q. I know you saw the transcript, and we'll talk about it top of the next hour. But, it's not me trying to find positives. I just think Derek Carr is a little more focused, and it seems like he's got a little bit of the eye of the tiger this year.
I just think that he knows what it's all about now. I think he knows that it's put up or shut up time, and that he's done really well. And you can't complain about the job that he's done, except for you want him to do better. And I think now that it's his time to shine. It's put up or shut up time.
It is time, and it's time for us to take a break here at the top of the hour. When we come back, hour number 2, our big news as well as Derek Carr. We'll talk about Hunter Renfro, and we get the Q-tip. That's right. Q's going to clean out your ears with some truth. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
You're clear.
your Raiders covered.
Stand by.
It's Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gulbransen.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 on this beautiful Sunday in Las Vegas as July is almost gone. That's right. August is around the corner. That means football, means baseball too. Q and I were talking about baseball during the break, and I'm so glad to be able to watch some live sports. Q, what's your view of the cutouts in the stands?
It's okay. I mean, I thought that they were going to be like really goofy, but they're kind of cool. I mean, you know, whatever. It's something. It's something to look at. So, yeah, I don't have any problem with them.
Although my wife...
I actually... You know what's funny is I thought that the crowd noise was going to be silly and be terrible, but it was actually pretty good too. So I like the presentation that they're doing.
No, I love the crowd noise. I think it's good, and I know they took it from MLB The Game. They took it from the video game, so they're using that, and it's really good. And you know, when the home team gets a hit that's a base hit on, it jacks up a little bit, like the home fans were cheering. So I like it. The cutouts though, my wife had a great idea. And maybe I shouldn't be giving it away. She's going to come in here and like throw something at me. But she said somebody should start an Instagram account and like get pictures of those cutouts and like put backstories to them. You know, make up some funny backstories.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are some, like in San Diego, Padres fan. So I'm absorbing and loving the yellow shoes and all the brown being back because I'm an old school Padre fan. But I'm watching the Padre game, and behind the plate, the cutouts are there, and there's a couple ladies back there who look downright like miserable in the picture. And my wife was joking. She's like, yeah, you could make up a story about her. And she's like, oh, my husband dragged me to this damn game. All this kind of stuff. So kind of fun. Now, the question is, they can't do it in football, can? There's too many seats. So if there's no fans at football, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But nonetheless, sports is back, and football comes back on Tuesday with the start of training camp here in Las Vegas. And, you know, Derek Carr has always been a point of contention for some Raider fans. There's a segment of you who don't like Derek Carr, which I understand from a win-loss perspective, but he's a good quarterback. He's a great guy, good human being. I have not spent any time around him at all, but from what I'm told to others, great guy. But when you look at Derek Carr this year, it's a big year for him. It's a big year for the Raiders. We've been talking about that over and over again. I think he's going to have a big year. But looking at this, you know, we did a story up on the website about his conversation. He did a Zoom meeting with donors to his charity up in Fresno. And Q, there was some interesting tidbits in here because the one thing that we've heard about, and some people want to call it an excuse, although I think there's some validity to it, which is continuity, right? Derek Carr's had all these different offensive coordinators. He's had 3 head coaches. But this time, Derek Carr, this is what Derek Carr said on this call. I'm going to quote him, but you can check out the story up on our website, silverandblacktoday.com. He says, it's my 3rd year in the system, and every year I've played in this system, the numbers have gone up, the production, the efficiency have gone up, all of it. And as we add new guys, what people can start seeing, Raider fans, is that our team is getting better. We're a top 10 offense. I know we can take issue with that. We'll get to that in a second. People don't want to talk about that. They talk about the stuff. We're a top 10 offense. We're healthier, and we've added more talent. So, Q, there's Derek Carr, you know, talking about, hey, that maybe people don't give us enough credit, but also saying what we said at the beginning of the show, which is we have all the tools now.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing about it, and I think he knows that. I mean, he does obviously know that, and he knows that, John Gruden and Mike Mayock have put these tools and these weapons around him to set him up for success, and that's all we could ever ask for coaches or a front office to do is, set the team up for success. Now, Derek Carr and John Gruden, they have to come together, and they have to be able to execute, and that's I mean, it's just simple as that. Gruden's got to call the right plays, and Derek Carr's got to be able to execute. But, I mean, there's weapons. He's never had this many weapons outside of 2016 when he played really, really well and looked like the team was going to go on a deep run. And, of course, he had that Christmas Eve game where he broke his ankle. But, I mean, that's, that was something that he just couldn't avoid, obviously. But, I mean, they haven't had weapons since then like this. So now here's an opportunity to show what he could really do. Well,
and one of the things the Raiders haven't had in the last couple decades, towards the end of Al Davis's life, with all due respect to his memory, he was not well. And so things got a little bit crazy. So there hasn't been a lot of consistency. I mean, you go look at coaching staffs, you look at GMs, all that stuff. And so when Derek Carr talked about this on the call, he said, when talking about Mike Mayock and John Gruden being there now for the third year, he said, quote, "They stay the course, they trust the process, they listen to their coach, and more," and this is about the players too, "and more I watch this happen, it's not been just a few guys, it's the whole team. When you have the whole team going in that direction, that's a recipe for success. Does it equal wins? In a way, yes, but it doesn't promise you wins. You still have to work to do it all, but I will say that Coach Gruden is doing what Mr. Mayock is doing is the best thing that's ever happened to the Raiders, and I say that not as a knock on anybody else, but the way that we're doing it all together, it's been really impressive to watch those two work together and work their tail off."
I mean, I couldn't disagree with him. You know, even from watching it from a distance, I think it's really a special time right now in Raider history. I mean, you haven't seen this kind of, like you say, continuity, haven't seen everything come together. And one thing that I notice a lot of, and I know it doesn't translate into wins, but Raider players love being Raiders. I mean, if you notice on social media, they're all tweeting out how excited they are about the upcoming season, their teammates, you know, being in the building. They're just fired up to be there. That wasn't the case, you know, years ago. Years ago, players were just going there as free agents to get a paycheck. You know, they were just like, all right, well, I'm at the end of my career. I need a check. Oh, let me go to Oakland. You know, that was what it was. Now guys want to be Raiders. You know, there's guys that believe in what they're doing out there, and it's because they have continuity. It's because they have a good plan in place. And, you know, Derek Carr's been in the league for 7 years now, and I mean, he is what he is. His win-loss record isn't what you want it to be, but he has an opportunity to make some things happen. And I don't know how long he's going to be the Raiders quarterback. I'm not going to say he's going to be there the next 10 years. I don't know. But he's got an opportunity to make it happen right now and put his best foot forward. And so I'm excited about what the possibilities are.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of people criticize Carr for getting up in press conference and say, it's all on me, it's all on me, it's all on me, and all that. But he said, you know, he talked about last year too. And he says, you know, with the first year, we kind of blew up the team. It was a tough year, of course, the trade of Khalil Mack and kind of all the changes that were going around with John Gruden trying to remake the roster in the image that he wanted to have, which was his right as a coach that's going to be there for 10 years. And then the next year, we come out, everyone picks us to win 5 games, which is last year's. And then he says, quote, "Well, guess what? We came out, and honestly, we should have won 10, should have won 9. If it wasn't for me sliding in bounds and then calling it out, and a 2-point conversion at the end of the game, a lazy D lineman put up his hand, we're talking about a different story then. So I'd say my hope and faith is there because I've seen it, and it doesn't change whether we win or lose. They come out and they are the same people every day." And Q, to me, that statement is a big one, because one of the things when you listen to successful athletes, when you go back, you know, I've read a lot of great books about successful athletes, including Arthur Ashe, Michael Jordan, you name the guys. And the one thing they always talk about is that even in losing or in defeat, if they saw where success was, they saw what they needed to do to be successful. And so then when the opportunity came again, they didn't fail because they knew what they had to do to overcome those obstacles. And so when I see Derek Carr, that might not be a sentence a lot of people or fans look at and say, wow, that's huge, but it actually is.
It really is. I mean, it just shows that he understands the moment and he can learn from it, you know, and that's what it's all about. If you lose a game, you want to be able to learn from it. And whenever I talk about this, I always go back to that Texans game that they played, the Raiders and the Texans played last year in Houston, and that was when Hunter Renfro got his first touchdown. And I remember talking to Hunter Renfro after the game, and the Raiders lost, and he said, "We'll be in this situation again, and we'll win this game because we know what we did and how we lost this game." And that was a game that they should have won. That was another game that they should have won, but they didn't. And Hunter Renfro said, "It's okay, we're going to grow from that." And that was a rookie talking, and that really resonated with me because I said, okay, as a rookie, he's saying that he understands the moment, he understands what's going on, that you know, he knows why they lost that game and what they have to do to, you know, not do that again. And then the next time they came out, they won a game that was similar fashion to that. So when guys start recognizing that and using losses as teaching moments, you can feel good about that. Now, you don't want to take every loss and say, "Oh, it's all right, going to learn from that and going to win." I mean, you know, you don't want to do that, but at the same time, you do want to, you know, you do realize that there are teaching moments out there.
No, exactly. I mean, look, it is professional sports. It's about winning. Being close and learning from your mistakes is not what it's about. But what my point is, and I think you said it so succinctly, which is, look, you learn from that, but then the next time you're faced with that challenge, you better overcome it because you're a pro, you're making a lot of money. So I just thought that in seeing the transcript and seeing him say that, and again, you can check out the story, silverandblacktoday.com. It's the lead story on the website. When you see that, though, to me, that jumps out. I'm always looking for the nugget that's not necessarily, so easy to spot, and I thought that was one of them. The other thing that I got a kick out of, and some of his detractors use it as a negative against him, but Wendy, who sent us the transcript, again, thank you. She asked him a question about the first home game against the Saints, and there might not be fans there. And Carr responded, I love this response. He said, yeah, I was kind of hoping we would get the Chiefs the first week. And then he said, I want them. I want the Chiefs. They just won the Super Bowl, so you want to play the best. You want to play them at their best. And then obviously there's a few teams out there that I'm excited about, which he talked about playing Brady again and so on. But again, we've said it over and over again, Q, that look, you have to focus and build your team to beat the Chiefs because you need to win the AFC West to have your best shot of getting into the playoffs every year, right? And this is a long-term deal, and Patrick Mahomes is going to be there for a long time now. He signed the big contract. So you have to focus on it. So you see Derek Carr, again, in what he says, focused on the Chiefs. I like that.
I do too, and that's he's got to get that monkey off his back. He hasn't beaten the Chiefs. He's beaten them. He beat them on that Thursday night game in Oakland. That was a great game. I think they did fourth down like 3 times. But for the most part, the Chiefs have been that bugaboo. That's been that thorn in his side where he just struggles to beat them. And to take that step forward, you do have to continue to beat the Chiefs, consistently beat the Chiefs. And I have them actually winning that Week 5 game. I just looked at the schedule and said they're going to win that Week 5 game in Kansas City. Because I just think that this year they split with the Chiefs. They do a really good job of playing them, and Derek Carr has a better game than he normally has against them, and they'll step up and win. So that's just my projection, but I think that he's got that too. He really he knows that, hey, I got to start beating the Chiefs consistently.
Yeah, and he talked also too, we've been talking a lot on this show and on the website about the possibility of fans not being at games this year. And so he talked a little bit about that. And it's something that we had a guest scheduled last week, and because of our tech snafu, he couldn't be with us last week, and he'll be on soon, Eric Nealer. But he talked about the possibility of playing games with no fans. And he said, listen, hey, every fan should be there, Derek Carr says. I love the excitement, crowd noise, all that, the home field advantage and the booze when you're on the road. I love that stuff, but at the same time, I just want to play football, right? This group, our friendships and our closeness remind me of my 2013 Fresno State team. We were so close and tight together, and if we messed up, we felt bad because we let the team down, not because we looked bad. And I think that's the group we have, so I'm hoping we can play. It sounds like the chemistry piece of this, which to me is still a big question mark because you have new pieces. But at least during this period of weirdness and COVID and all this craziness, it sounds like these guys, even if it's virtually, and a lot of them have been in person here in Las Vegas, it sounds like they've developed that bond, and that is a strength, especially with the strong veteran presence coming back.
It is, and it's funny because you like you said, there hasn't been anything in person, no OTAs, no rookie minicamp, any of that. But going back to the point that I said earlier is that I feel like these Raiders love being Raiders, So I don't know what John Gruden and Mike Mayock are selling to these guys and what they're telling them, in the background. But whatever they're doing it right because everyone is fired up about the coach. Everyone's fired up about the team. They love what Mike Mayock has been doing. You could just see it, man. I saw Richie Incognito tweet out something earlier. He can't wait to get out there on the field. he's fired up. It's just so many guys are pumped up. It's a different culture, and that's a word I got to go back to. Cleve Farrell was drafted number 4 overall in 2019. A lot of people didn't like it, thought it was too high, but he was one of those culture changers. You saw what Mike Mayock and company were able to do. They have changed that culture where these guys are a tight-knit group, and they're out there. They're out there trying to play for each other, and they got each other's back, and they want to be a part of the long-term success of the Raiders, and that's an exciting thing. It
is, and I think the fresh start here in Las Vegas as well, meaning you got a brand-new facility. You saw players in their helmets and jerseys for the first time yesterday since they've passed their COVID tests. They're in the facility now, and the stadium is going to be done here this week. Right? So after 3 years, the stadium is pretty much done. They already got the certificate of temporary occupancy, by the way, for those of you out there interested. And for those who didn't say or said that the stadium wouldn't be done on time, it's done on time. So I think that whole start to this era in Las Vegas. It's just a nice, clean start with all the right people, with all the right culture in place, and that's a huge deal. It's going to make a big difference for this franchise and its players moving forward. All right, we're going to step aside for a break. Don't forget, big news at the end of the show. Coming up next, is Hunter Renfro, yes, Hunter Renfro, is he the key to the entire Raider offense in 2020? We'll discuss that here on the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Mookie and Max.
Clear.
Stand by.
The only way to take Silver and Black today with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. As always, thank you for being with us, spending your time with us. We know you can go anywhere, listen to anything, watch anything you want. So the fact that you're here and we're having this just amazing chat with Raider fans inside our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit notifications and all on YouTube, because we've got a lot of things that are going to be happening there in the future as well, which we'll talk about in news at the end of the show. But nonetheless, it's great because the fans in there and the people who listen to this show are just incredible. So we appreciate them being there and supporting us as always. A special shout out to Sanjoku and Kabani Martinez for being donors today too in YouTube, man. That's, putting your money where your mouth is.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. Let's go.
I love it. Now I can buy Q a beer when he's in town. But no, thank you guys. We appreciate that very much. But listen, we want to get back into Raiders offense. We talked about Derek Carr in the last segment, and I wrote a piece up on silverandblacktoday.com. If you don't go read the website, make sure you do. And in fact, just a tease, we have a great piece coming out tomorrow from our own senior NFL columnist, Mo Moten. And Mo's going to be talking about how the Jamal Adams trade impacts the Raiders and they're a possibility, because we've been hearing about it for weeks, on J.D. Von Clowney and how they might get an opportunity to sign him. So if Clowney's available and on all that, will it happen? So make sure you read the website tomorrow morning. Mo's piece will come out. But I wrote one on Hunter Renfro, Q, and I want you to check me on this one, right? But here's the crux of my point. I won't go through the whole article clearly, but what I will tell you is, when you look at what we've been talking about for the last hour, you look at the Raiders offense, all the tools that they have Darren Waller, they have Tyrell Williams, hopefully healthy and ready to go, Foster Moreau, young tight end with promise, Josh Jacobs, right? And you have all the other guys, including the quarterbacks, ready to go. When that comes to Hunter Renfro, to me, that means that defenses are going to have to cover the Raiders differently than they have in the previous years. With those threats on the outside, then you have Williams at tight end, and you have Jason Witten there. You have a bunch of guys at tight end that they can throw into the mix. With all those guys there, Hunter Renfro, to me, is going to eat a lot. He can eat a lot in intermediate games. If you look at what he was able to do last year, he had receiving yards average downfield before the catch were 6 yards, and after the catch 6 yards. So he's a guy who's not going to go vertical. He's not Mr. Speed, right? We saw that. But what he can do is play that middle of the field in that slot, find spots, settle into a position, one-on-one coverage now with Ruggs and Williams on the outside. To me, Q, he's going to have so much opportunity that he could rack up a lot of yards, be very important in the red zone, and be very important in short to mid-yard situations where the Raiders need to pick up a first down.
I think he's going to be a key piece in the red zone. I really do. I think he's going to be a major key piece in the red zone, and that goes back to what you're saying. He's just a smart football player, and now that there's so many other weapons on the field, the teams are going to have to play him straight up, and so he's going to have an opportunity to be that security blanket for Derek Carr. Last year when the Raiders drafted him, I kept saying that it was going to be quality catches over quantity catches when it came to Hunter Renfro, because I didn't think he was going to get 70, 80 catches, 1,000 yards, or whatever like that, but he'll be that guy, like everyone says, third and Renfro. He'll be that guy that extends drives. He'll be that guy that, can sit down in a zone and pick up a first down when needed. Well, he ended up at the end of the season last year, Derek Carr went to him early and he went to him often because, he didn't have anybody. He had Darren Waller, and it was basically him and Hunter Renfro, and that was it. So I think now this year, with all the added weapons, he'll go back to being, quality over quantity. He's going to get a lot of very important key catches. And I mean, it's just that's the thing about him. He's a smart football player. He's well coached at Clemson. I mean, he's just that guy. I was very excited when the Raiders drafted him, and I'm very excited about what he could do moving forward. He's just a guy who goes about his business, and I know it's like a old cliche, he brings his hard hat and his lunchbox to work. I get that, but that's just kind of who that dude is. And so very excited about what he could do in the future. He's shown that he could rack it up. He could catch 8 or 9 balls a game if they're thrown his way. But this year, Derek Carr shouldn't have to feed him like that just because he has so many other weapons. But yeah, very important catches. That'll be Hunter Renfro's bread and butter right there.
There you go. Well said. And David Carr, of course, Derek Carr's brother on the NFL Network, just a couple weeks ago said that he thought Renfro could lead the league in touchdowns. I think that's a reach, because you're talking 18 to 20 touchdowns, and he had 4 last year. But I do see him doubling his touchdown output, at least maybe going up to 10, 12-ish, which would be a phenomenal year for Hunter Renfro. And I agree with you. A lot of people, listen, there's no denying the story of Darren Waller and what he's been able to do. But the secret is out now. Everybody knows Darren Waller. They know how talented he is. So he's going to see different coverages this year. I mean, you saw it towards the tail end of last year anyway. And so to me, everybody who says Darren Waller is going to get 10, 12 touchdowns, I don't know about that, because I think if you're Derek Carr, you're going to have the opportunity, like you said, to find Renfro in those short yardage situations, especially in the red zone. And to me, that's what makes him so valuable. And I really find that if you look at Renfro, you watch the film, I had the Game Pass, start of all of this quarantine, and I watched every game, and I ISO'd on a couple key players, him being one of them, was that towards the end of the year, especially after that injury, he just got better and better. You could see he was comfortable. He was picking up the coverages so much better. And to me, that's where it's going to be, because I think Raider fans need to temper. Look, you'll have your vertical game. Yes, Ruggs will break one. Williams will break one. But again, people talk about Carr checking down and criticize him for that. In this offense, with these tools and the ability to go to Waller and Renfro in shorter situations, you're going to have that a lot more because it's going to be open to you. You have to take what's open to you. And just because you want a vertical 70-yard touchdown pass doesn't mean that that's going to win you games. The Raiders need to be methodical. It's what John Gruden does, Q, and Hunter Renfro is going to be a massive piece of that.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. And I know John Gruden loves him some Hunter Renfro, and I think that all of Raider Nation really saw what Hunter Renfro was able to do his rookie year, and he's only going to get better. I mean, he really is. He's a guy who 90% of the time is going to catch the ball. He's not going to put it on the ground. I know he had a couple drops last year, but that's something that I was always impressed with as well. He has really, really good hands, and I think it's just going to improve as well. He puts in the work. He's that guy. I mean, again, you look up and down the roster, man, and I hate to sound like, almost like I'm gushing over the team, but I feel like that, man. When I look at the roster and I look at the young talent, I mean, it's a lot of young talent. They could be really good for a really long time. It's something to get excited about, and Hunter Renfro, I think, is a major, major key for the success of this team moving forward.
Yeah, and is there anything in his game that concerns you, though, Q, or do you think he's got to work on? I mean, you said he had 4 drops last year, okay, which is not bad at all, especially for a rookie. But what is it about his game that you'd like to see get better, especially coming out of this shortened camp?
I think he just probably needs to get a little bit stronger. I think that when they press him at the line of scrimmage, he might struggle to get off the block a little bit. But that's it. I like his game. I think he's very smart. He uses his head. He sees a hole in the zone and he sits down and it makes himself available. And yeah, he put 4 balls on the ground last year. I think he'll probably put 1 on the ground in 2020. I mean, really, I don't think that that's going to be a norm for him. 4 is a lot of drops for Hunter Renfro, and that's just something he doesn't do. So he's very smart, and he's going to use that to the best of his ability, and I think you're going to see a lot from him moving forward.
Yes, a shout-out to Raider Rich on YouTube with another donation for us there. Thank you, my man. We appreciate that so much.
Let's go!
I'm telling you, man.
Go! It's like a telethon around here.
I know. I know. I grew up watching the Jerry Lewis telethon, man. It's like I want to get. We're gonna have to get in tuxedos, man. Get ready for that.
Whatever. But, hey, man, whatever we got to do, I'll dance. If you say dance, let's dance. Let's do it.
I love it. Thank you again, Raider Rich. But, yeah, I mean, Renfro, too. I mean, that's the thing. When I talked to him in the spring, we had him on the show, and that's what he said, too, Q. He said, I just need to get stronger. He said, that's the thing. I held up, but I got injured. He said, I can avoid that. And that's the one thing that the coaches have been telling him, too, is, look, you need to get stronger. And it looks like he's been able to do that, even though he still looks like a high school student with a high school teacher's hairline. And I'm with you there. I'm with you, Hunter. I'm not making fun of you, dude. I got the same one. But he just, to me, is one of those guys. And the relationship, that's the one thing I'll say in closing here as we close up to the bottom of the hour, which is his relationship with Derek Carr. I think the most underrated piece of the receiver quarterback is that relationship. Now, there's some great quarterbacks and great receivers who don't have a great relationship off the field, but on the field, they just click. But most of the time, when you find these guys, they have the receivers they develop these relationships with. There's such a level of trust and understanding, Q, that they just click. And I see that with Carr and Renfro.
He could be Carr's Julian Edelman. And I'm not just saying that because he's a white wide receiver. But, I mean, but you know what I mean? And I hate to say that because that's what the first thing people will say. Well, he just, you're just comparing him to another white wide receiver. But it's not. That's not the case. It's just they're very comfortable. They're very comfortable with each other. You know what I mean? Like they knew what they were going to do just by looking down the line of scrimmage. Tom Brady could look at him and he would already know, okay, this is what Tom wants. That's the kind of relationship that you're talking about right there. And that is what I think Hunter Renfro and Derek Carr are building. And hopefully that's what he's building with the rest of the team as well. Now, again, the rookies that are on the squad, they haven't had a chance to get out there on the grass and actually put in some work. So, it's going to take a little bit longer time to build that relationship. But that's what you want. You want to have that continuity and that relationship where a guy can look at a guy and say, okay, I know exactly what's coming. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'll even go back to when I used to play basketball and everything. Me and my boy Corey would be at the park playing, and I would look at him, and he would know, okay, I got to throw alley-oop to Q. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I know exactly what's coming right now because I would have that look in my eye. That's without saying a word. You know, and so that's what you have to be able to do. If you're able to be on the same page with your guys to the point where they can look at you and know what they want, that's when you're successful.
So you're like me, dude. You live above the rim, right?
I used to, not
Now-
so much anymore.
Now, to be truthful, it takes me a ladder to get up there. But anyway, good stuff, and it's going to be fun to watch Hunter Renfro as well. And I love your comparison with Edelman there because I think it's absolutely true. All right, guys, we're going to step aside. When we come back, it's going to be time for the Q-tip. That's right. Q's going to get on his soapbox. He's going to give you a dose of truth, whether you like it or not. Most of the time you like it, I'm sure, but he's going to get up on the soapbox and he's going to talk about it. And then we'll close out the show with some big news about the show. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Join CBS Sports Radio. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the home stretch of the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. I'm Scott Gulbransen with your boy Q, and this is Q's segment. We call it the Q-tip because we're going to clean your ears out.
There's been a lot of controversy on this name, by the way. Everyone's like, hey, you got to change it to something else, or you got to change it to this. Someone said, like, queuing it up with Q, and then I know you said the fourth Q order at first, and that sounded kind of whatever. But I mean, it's just there's so many different thoughts on what the name should be. So I guess we're still open to whatever it could be. Maybe we can switch it up every week. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe I'll put together some kind of prize pack for the person who comes up with the best name. Maybe we're about to order. Of course, we kind of revamped our logo and our identity for the website and for the show, the logo and all that stuff. So we're going to get some new gear. So maybe we'll put together a gear package for someone who comes up with a name that we fully adopt. But for now, it's the Q-tip. And Q's going to take it away here and tell us what's on his mind.
Well, I really just wanted to talk about Max Crosby. Max Crosby as a rookie, 10.5 sacks. Everyone knows he kind of came out of nowhere, didn't even start the whole season. But just want to talk about him moving forward and how he could end up being such a key player for the Raiders that, well, you didn't really expect. When Mike Mayock and John Gruden drafted him, the thing that you kept hearing Gruden say is your best friend is going to be Deuce Gruden. You got to get into the weight room and get bigger and stronger. And then at some point you'll be that guy. Well, he was able to do that, get onto the field. He busted his tail off. You saw what he did in Hard Knocks. Everyone kind of became a fan of his then, but he did it on the field. When going out there his rookie year, getting 10.5 sacks. How does he do year two? How do you bounce and improve off of that success that you had in year one? How do you make that better? And now it's not going to be a surprise. Now offenses are going to be, okay, where's Max Crosby at? You gotta account for him now. And so, well, who steps up? If he's getting double teamed a lot, and we saw this with Khalil Mack when he became a force, everyone really started to double team him, triple team him. Who's going to step up along that defensive line if Max Crosby's getting the double and triple teams? But how can Max Crosby continue to get better as well? There's a lot of things that he's been working on. I know you mentioned earlier in the show about social media showing guys running up hills. I mean, that's all he's been doing is working out. He's jumping out of pools. I mean, he's been jumping out of pools doing those kind of workouts. I mean, there's a lot of things he's been doing, and so I just expect him to have that worker mentality again. And this is coming from a 4th-round draft pick who nobody really knew what he was going to be when he was drafted, and all of a sudden he turned out to be just about a star. He very well easily could have won the Rookie of the Year for the defense. Nick Bosa ended up getting that because that team is so successful and went to the Super Bowl. But, I mean, he could have easily won that award if he had, if the Raiders had been more successful and got some more wins. So I'm just looking at Max Crosby and seeing what he could do. How does he take that next step? And, what does he have to do to be that leader on that defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, that's true. And when Max Crosby got drafted, we were doing a live draft show when they drafted Max Crosby. And I was a little bit like, oh, okay, 4th round. And the first thing I said was he needed to get stronger. And he did. I mean,
right.
He really, he worked last year. And of course, everybody saw Hard Knocks and wanting to play injured and all that kind of stuff. So it said a lot about the guy's moxie and what he was like. But then you see his work ethic has been second to none. Not only that, but the other thing impressive to me, Q, is here's a young guy who in everything he says and does, you could tell appreciates everything that he has thus far and knows. To me, the way he communicates, he's saying, look, I know I was a surprise for some people last year, but I'm not a surprise anymore. I'm not going to sneak up on anyone, especially in our division. Right. I'm going to have to earn everything. And then off the field, what he's done with charity. We also heard this week, too, about how he wants to take his second contract. He wants to create a pit bull rescue operation and save dogs. So here's a guy, you talked earlier in the show, Q, about culture. About guys like Clelin Ferrell, who the team went out because they wanted a personality type. They wanted a guy who was going to come in and recreate the culture of the Raiders to what Mike Mayock and John Gruden wanted it to be. And Max Crosby is that guy, and it's so open, and it's not concocted. You can tell it's genuine. And yes, he's got to perform on the field, But man, you talk about a rookie off to a great start, both from a on the field and off the field situation. It's hard to find anybody better than Max Crosby.
I mean, really, it really is. I mean, he's a star in the making. You know, obviously everyone has already given him a name. You know, Brian Baldinger from NFL Network already calls him the Condor, and that kind of stuck with him and really liked that because of his extreme reach. You know, his arm length is just incredible. But yeah, so I mean, maybe that's the name that he rolls with. But I mean, the guy is just. He's a heck of a player. You know, he's fun to watch. I saw a comment on our chat group that we have going saying that he needs to improve against the run, and that's true. That's an area where he can get better. You know, get better against the run, be a more all-around guy. But, again, I mean, for what he was working with last year, he didn't really have a whole lot of help to come in there and get 10.5 sacks his rookie year without playing the whole season, without starting the whole season. That's pretty incredible, man. And I mean, you know, everyone's mad because they thought that Cleve Farrell was supposed to be like the guy who replaces Khalil Mack. Well, Max Crosby's really been the guy that replaces Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack only had 4 sacks his rookie year.
Yeah, that's true. And your point about the run too, you know, he's looked for, and the film I watched on him too is to me it's very easily correctable on how he can get better with the run. A lot of it had to do with where he was on the field and how he turned and how his vision, frankly, seeing what was happening before him. He was so aggressive to get into the quarterback that a lot of times he would not be looking, or his hand movements would not get him into a position where he could slide over and make a play against the run. And even in the drills that he's been posting on places like Instagram, I see specifically, you could see what he's working on. And so to me, I see that jump from year 1 to year 2. He might not get 10 sacks. He might get 6 or 8, which is fine. That's just great too. But he might also become a better run stopper and a more complete player. And then when you become a more complete player, you find that some of those guys with the sack numbers actually go up.
Yeah, exactly. And I expect him, you know, the 10.5 sacks his rookie year was impressive. I wouldn't be surprised and shocked if he only had 8 or 9 in 2020. But I think his overall game is going to improve. And like I said, he's not going to surprise anyone anymore. I mean, it's not like nobody knows who number 98 is. I mean, they're now game planning for him. He's now made himself one of those guys where offensive coordinators and offensive line coaches are game planning how to stop that guy. So I mean, that's a great thing for him. He's only going to continue to get better. But yeah, it just, if he can get a little bit better against the run, then you have an all-around player right there, and a guy that's probably going to command a pretty big paycheck on his next check that you talked about earlier.
Oh yeah, and Q, I mean, when you look at Max Crosby, defense is now aware of his talent, what he was able to do last year with that incredible rookie season. Who's going to benefit most from that? Is it going to be that new linebacking core, take opportunities to maybe move up and show some blitz packages, or is it going to be at one of the other ends?
I think it's going to be one of the other ends. I really do. I think so much attention is going to be put on Max Crosby and trying to slow him down that a guy like Cleve Farrell is going to be able to eat. And that's a guy that I'm very excited about anyway. I think that he's going to have a heck of a year 2 with this team and just being in his natural position and being able to play the whole time in his natural position. And hopefully he's healthy the whole time. I mean, he had a concussion last year. He lost a lot of weight. I mean, there's a lot of different things. He was playing inside. I mean, there's a lot to like about Cleve Farrell. And I know he's been working pretty quietly, but he's been working a lot on his own this offseason. So I'm excited about him. But I think that Max Crosby's success is only going to make him that much better just because so many people are going to be paying attention. So many offensive lines are going to be paying attention to try to slow Max down. Cleve's going to be on the other end trying to eat.
Yeah, Cleve Farrell too. I don't understand fans who just watch games. I understand maybe because sometimes what he does is not as visible to you. But when you watch, game tape and you watch what he's able to do, especially the last 6 games of the year, there was massive progress for him. And so I like your point of view here, Q. I think he's going to break out and be a much more visible player to where the fact that a casual fan will take much more notice of what he does during a game. And I think, too, you'll have no choice but to see it because I think even on television, watching the games, the commentators and what will see it because it's going to be more disruptive. He has help, too, more help on the inside with Malik Collins. Mo Hurst is going to be another year advanced, and I think will grow there, too. So that interior line there will help all those guys on the outside and behind them in the linebacking core. So I'm excited about it. And it might be, it might take them a couple games to get into full, I think, sync. But overall, it's going to be phenomenal, and I like what Max Crosby and all those guys are doing. I like what they put together. But like Andrew Erickson said when you talked to him earlier about fantasy football, the Raiders are going to have to earn some respect. They got talent,
right,
but they're going to have to earn the respect on the field, and that's going to come when they get on the field. So we'll see how it comes about. All right, so we are coming up on our final break of the hour. When we come back, we're going to close out the show and give you some big news about the show that you don't want to miss. And we'll close it all up, and we'll do that right after these words. You're listening to The Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Stay by.
Hey, this is Rodney Hudson. You're listening to Silver and Black today.
All right, Rodney bringing us back in. Centered the ball cleanly, and I've taken it. and I'm handing it to Q. Run, Q, run.
I liked it better when Eric Allen brought us back. Eric Allen is the homeboy, man. I used to get my haircut in Hayward, California, when Eric Allen was playing with the Raiders. Him and his son always go to the barbershop, the same barbershop I went to in Hayward. So Eric Allen is a personal homeboy of mine. So
I love that. I love that.
I like it. Yeah, man.
I'm also,
gotta have those connections.
I'm also partial to him because he's a San Diego kid. So growing up in San Diego,
that's true.
A bunch of guys there who went on to play, including Marcus Allen, guy. You might know who he is.
Yeah, he's kind of good.
He had a good career. Yeah, it's okay. But anyway, welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 as we get close to wrapping up the show for the week. And I know we've been teasing a little bit about what's going on with the show because I've been saying all week, or at least the last few days, and on this show from the beginning, that we're going to have some announcements on the future of the show. And people are like, oh, it better be that Q's permanent. Well, yeah, Q is permanently involved with Silver and Black today. There's no doubt about that. But I will tell you that today it will be our last show on CBS Sports Radio 1140. So that's not a bad thing. First of all, I want to do a couple things. Number one is I need to thank the folks at Entercom and CBS Sports Radio 1140 who, when I walked in there over 2.5 years ago and said, hey, look, I got this popular website. I got a podcast that's done really well. We have sponsors. We have all this stuff. Dan Kearney, who's the man who heads up Entercom Las Vegas, showed confidence in the vision and really backed us from the beginning. And without him, we wouldn't be where we are today on the radio. So I want to thank him for that because, the Raiders were still 2+ years out from being in Las Vegas. And imagine you go into the big radio group and you see somebody and you say, hey, look, yeah, the Raiders aren't here yet, but we're talking about it. He had the vision to put us on the air and say, yeah, you know what, let's jump ahead of this thing. So I appreciated that because it shared the same vision I had, which is, you don't want to wait till they're here to start. You want to start early. And so we were able to do that. And so I will forever be grateful, no matter where we go and what we do, for the opportunity that Dan Kearney gave us, as well as Paul Ihander, who is the program director at KXST, CBS Sports Radio 1140. And so for me, those two guys have been so instrumental in the success of the show. When I went to them and said, hey, we're going to go to London, they said, you got it. We're in. You can go. We'll figure it out. They helped us with the engineering and everything to get that done, to make that trip possible. We were the only radio show in London from Las Vegas, so we certainly appreciate the support of that. Also, I got to thank as well Mark Bonilla, who heads up all the engineering and everything that makes the station run. He has been an amazing friend, an amazing producer, engineer as well, and again made so many things possible. And whenever I had ideas, he always worked to make those things possible. And then of course the man on the board today, Trent Ogle, who's been our engineer as well, who's been amazing and helped me offline with so many technical things with this quarantine and how we had to broadcast remotely, trying to get the video going. We've been successful at other times, and then I've screwed it up other times. It's never been him. It's always been me. So all of those guys at CBS Sports Radio 1140 have been so supportive of us, as well as all the folks at Entercom Las Vegas. And so even though today is our last show there, we have a lot of stuff working. I can't give you all the details yet. We're going to announce them very, very soon, but you will hear us still. You'll still be able to see us on video. You'll still get audio, this radio show in essence as well. So stay tuned for that news. So yes, I had the big news to say this is our last show, and now I'm leaving you in the lurch. I'm not telling you everything we're doing because it's not all yet prepared to be announced, Q. But the future is exciting, and certainly Q, you've had other places. You've been in stations you've been at. The support of a station like CBS Sports Radio 1140 for us has been huge, and it really means everything.
No, it really does, and even though I haven't been a part of the show for a long time, I've seen the incredible work that you've been doing over the past couple of years, and, I've reached out to you multiple times and just admired from a distance, really. And so I know that you've branded this and built this into something that was it's a monster, and so, hats off to you and hats off to CBS Sports for, like you said, sharing the same vision with you, because you're right. You don't want to just all of a sudden, once they get there, it's like, oh, hey, look, let's do a show now about the Raiders. No, I mean, have it now because everyone's going to want to react, or have it before because everyone's going to want to react and do it now. So, smart on both of your guys' part to go ahead and get this thing going early.
Well, and that's the thing, though. It's always team effort, right? Because you hear the show, but you don't see everybody behind the scenes that makes it happen, right? So not only do we do a lot of prep work getting ready for the show, but you have people like Trent, you have people like Mark, and of course Paul Ihender, the program director, who promotes the show and makes sure that we all have the opportunity to get on the air and talk to you guys about Raiders. So although we'll be leaving the station, there's big news coming about our future ventures and what's happening, and that'll be very soon. So our longtime listener, viewer, D-Man 707 said it was a tease to another tease, and you're right, D-Man. But we believe in ending things on a high note here at CBS, and we wanted to do that. But there is going to be news very, very soon, and we'll share it with all of you. So make sure you check out the website, silverandblacktoday.com. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Silverblack, the number 2 day, Silverblack, the number 2 day. You can also like us on Facebook. You can follow Q, of course. We put up all the Twitter handles, so you can follow us there as well individually, so you won't miss the news. And we're going to be doing a lot more live video and things like that as time moves on as well. We have a lot of folks involved. Of course, Evan Grote, who does our Just Pod Baby podcast as part of our group, will also be there as well. So we'll be doing more there too. So it's just one of those things where we're moving on from CBS Sports Radio 1140, but not moving on from what we do here. So stay tuned for that news. And certainly appreciate everybody's support here. And again, thank you to Dan Kearney, Paul Ihender, Mark Bonilla, and Trent Ogle for all they've done for us during our 2.5+ years at the station. So thanks to them. And Q, man, we got a lot. We got camp this week, so there's going to be a lot going on. I know people can keep up to date with you every day on the Locked In Raiders podcast. And I'm sure we'll have some other stuff moving this week too, where people will hear from us.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it, man. So just go ahead and give me a follow, give you a follow, and stay tuned because we'll be talking to you for sure.
Absolutely. And by the way, I hate wearing masks, but if we have to wear masks so that I can go see a freaking movie again, please let's do something, man. I got to get out of the house. I guess my wife. I think my wife's going to kill me. By the way. But we'll see. We'll see how it all goes down. But again, I want to thank everybody at Entercom Las Vegas and CBS Sports Radio 1140. Make sure you stay tuned this week for some big news about what we're going to be doing. Because it's coming, and we're just kind of getting the ink dry on some of that stuff, and we'll talk to you about it very, very soon. Make sure you like the YouTube channel, hit notifications all. We'll talk to you guys very soon. Again, thanks to everybody, and go Raiders, and may the autumn wind always be at your back. And thank you again for all the great chat today in YouTube. Take care, everybody. This has been the Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
You're clear.